The snow fell in thick, silent flakes outside the window as Mark Davidson clutched the small velvet box in his trembling hand. His girlfriend of 3 years had just walked out the door, and out of his life, leaving him alone on Christmas Eve with his sleeping 6-year-old daughter upstairs and a diamond ring that would never find its home. If you've ever felt the sting of rejection when you least expected it, or wondered if true love might still be waiting around an unexpected corner, this story might just restore your faith in second chances. Like, subscribe, and join me on this journey of heartbreak and hope that proves sometimes the best gifts arrive after the wrapping paper has been cleared away. Mark slumped onto the couch, the Christmas tree lights blinking mockingly in the corner of his modest living room. The apartment felt impossibly quiet now that Vanessa had left, her final words still ringing in his ears. "I can't do this anymore, Mark. I'm not cut out to be a mother, and I don't want to pretend anymore. Not even for Christmas." He should have seen it coming. The way she'd grown distant over the past few months, how she'd make excuses to avoid spending time with Emma, his daughter. But he'd been so determined to create the perfect family, to give Emma the mother she deserved after his wife had passed away from cancer 4 years ago. He'd convinced himself that tonight, Christmas Eve, would be the perfect time to propose, to finally make them a real family. What a fool he'd been. The sound of small feet padding down the hallway made him quickly pocket the ring box and wipe his eyes. "Daddy?" Emma stood in the doorway, her favorite stuffed penguin clutched to her chest, her dark curls wild from sleep. "Where's Vanessa? I thought she was staying for Santa." Mark forced a smile. "She had to go home, sweetie. Something came up." Emma's face fell, but only for a moment. "That's okay. You and me can wait for Santa together, like we used to." Mark felt his heart crack a little more. At 6 years old, Emma had already learned to adjust her expectations, to find the silver lining when people disappointed her. It wasn't fair. She deserved so much better. "It's late, Em. Santa won't come until you're asleep, remember?" He stood up and held out his hand. "Let's get you back to bed." After tucking Emma in with promises that tomorrow would be magical, Mark returned to the living room and poured himself a glass of whiskey. He had to pull himself together. Tomorrow was Christmas, and he needed to be strong for Emma. She deserved a happy holiday, even if his own heart was shattered. His phone buzzed with a text message. For a brief, hopeful moment, he thought it might be Vanessa, but instead, it was from his boss, Catherine Wells, the CEO of Wells Architectural Design, where Mark worked as a senior project manager. "Sorry to bother you on Christmas Eve. The Johnson proposal needs revisions before the meeting on the 27th, files attached. Merry Christmas." Mark sighed. Catherine Wells was brilliant, driven, and completely married to her work. At 38, she had built one of the most successful architectural firms in the city from the ground up. The employees respected her vision but feared her exacting standards and workaholic tendencies. He opened his laptop, figuring work might distract him from the wreckage of his personal life. As he reviewed the Johnson proposal, he noticed several issues that would need addressing. Catherine's vision for the project was ambitious, perhaps too ambitious for the client's budget. He began making notes, losing himself in the familiar comfort of work. By the time he finished, it was past midnight. Christmas Day. He sent the revised proposal back to Catherine with his notes and suggestions, not expecting a response until after the holiday. To his surprise, his phone rang almost immediately. "Davidson," Catherine's crisp voice came through the line. "You're working on Christmas Eve." "Christmas Day now, technically," he replied. "Just finished the revisions you asked for." There was a pause. "I didn't expect you to do them tonight. I assumed you'd be busy with family." Something in her voice made Mark wonder if she was alone too. "Plans changed," he said simply. "Thought I might as well be productive." Another pause. "Your revisions are good. Very good, actually. You caught things I missed." Coming from Catherine Wells, this was high praise indeed. "Thank you," he said, surprised by the compliment. "You have a daughter, don't you?" she asked unexpectedly. "Yes, Emma. She's 6. She must be excited about Christmas morning." Mark smiled despite himself. "She is. Been talking about nothing else for weeks." "I won't keep you then," Catherine said. "Merry Christmas, Mark." "Merry Christmas, Catherine." The call ended, leaving Mark slightly puzzled by the personal turn in the conversation. In the 3 years he'd worked at Wells Architectural Design, he'd rarely spoken to Catherine about anything other than work. She kept a professional distance from all her employees, earning her the nickname Ice Queen around the office. Morning came too quickly. Emma bounded into his room at 6 a.m., her excitement palpable as she dragged him to the living room to see what Santa had brought. Mark had stayed up late arranging the presents under the tree, determined that Emma would have a magical Christmas despite Vanessa's departure. As Emma tore through her gifts with unbridled joy, Mark found himself smiling genuinely for the first time since last night's disaster. This was what mattered, his daughter's happiness. They spent the morning building the dollhouse Santa had brought, and Mark managed to push thoughts of Vanessa aside. Around noon, his phone rang again. "Catherine Wells. On Christmas Day. I'm sorry to disturb your holiday," she began, sounding uncharacteristically hesitant. "But I've been reviewing your suggestions for the Johnson project, and I'd like to discuss them further." "I know it's Christmas, but—" "It's fine," Mark assured her, curious about the urgency. "Emma's playing with her new toys." "What did you want to discuss?" "Actually, I was wondering if we could meet in person." "I'm at the office." Mark blinked in surprise. "You're working today?" "I always work on Christmas," she said matter-of-factly. "The office is quiet. No distractions." Mark hesitated, looking at Emma happily arranging furniture in her new dollhouse. "Bring your daughter," Catherine added, as if reading his mind. "There's plenty of space for her to play while we talk." The suggestion was so unexpected that Mark found himself agreeing before he could think better of it. "We'll be there in an hour." When he told Emma they were going to his office, she was surprisingly excited. "Can I bring my new coloring books?" "And penguin?" she asked, holding up her stuffed penguin. "Of course, sweetie. Pack whatever you want to play with." The office building was eerily quiet when they arrived, the security guard in the lobby looking surprised to see anyone on Christmas Day. The elevator ride to the top floor was silent, Emma clutching Mark's hand as they ascended. Catherine's office door was open, light spilling into the darkened hallway. Mark knocked gently on the doorframe. She looked up from her desk, and for a moment, Mark was struck by how different she appeared outside of normal business hours. Her usual perfectly tailored suit was replaced by a simple cashmere sweater, her dark hair loose around her shoulders instead of pulled back in its customary severe bun. Without the armor of her CEO persona, Catherine Wells looked younger, softer somehow. "You came," she said, standing up. Her eyes moved to Emma, who was partially hiding behind Mark's leg. "And you must be Emma. I've heard a lot about you." Emma peeked out, curious. "You have?" Catherine smiled, and Mark realized he'd rarely seen her smile at work. "Your dad talks about you all the time." This seemed to satisfy Emma, who stepped forward with more confidence. "I brought my coloring books and penguin," she announced, holding up her stuffed animal. "Perfect," Catherine said. "I have a conference table right over here where you can set up." She led Emma to a large table by the window, which offered a spectacular view of the snow-covered city. "Would you like some hot chocolate? I have a machine that makes it." Emma's eyes widened. "Yes, please." As Catherine prepared hot chocolate for Emma, Mark stood awkwardly, unsure what to make of this side of his boss. When she returned with the drink and a plate of Christmas cookies that had appeared from somewhere, Emma was already settled with her coloring books. "Now," Catherine said, turning to Mark, let's discuss the Johnson project. They moved to her desk, and for the next hour, they went through Mark's suggestions in detail. Catherine was engaged, thoughtful, and surprisingly open to his ideas. It was the most productive conversation they'd ever had. These revisions will save the client money without compromising the design integrity, Catherine concluded. It's brilliant work, Mark. Thank you, he said, still not used to receiving such direct praise from her. I just approached it from a practical standpoint. That's what makes you valuable, she said. I get caught up in the vision sometimes and lose sight of the practical considerations. Mark glanced over at Emma, who was now curled up on the conference room chair, napping with Penguin tucked under her arm. Catherine followed his gaze. She's beautiful, she said softly. You're doing a wonderful job with her. The unexpected comment caught Mark off guard. I'm trying, he admitted. It's not always easy doing it alone. Her mother? Catherine asked carefully. Died 4 years ago. Cancer. The word still hurt to say, even after all this time. Catherine's expression softened with genuine sympathy. I'm sorry, Mark. I didn't know. It's not something I talk about at work, he said. Then, feeling a strange need to unburden himself, he added, I thought I'd found someone new. I was going to propose last night, actually. But she left instead. Said she wasn't ready to be a mother. The moment the words left his mouth, Mark regretted them. This was his boss, not his friend. But Catherine didn't seem uncomfortable with the personal revelation. Her loss, she said simply. Some people aren't ready for the responsibility that comes with loving a child. There was something in her voice that made Mark curious. Do you have children? He asked, realizing he knew almost nothing about Catherine's personal life. She shook her head. No. My career has always come first. She glanced at Emma again. Sometimes I wonder if I've made the right choices. The vulnerability in her admission surprised him. Before he could respond, his phone buzzed with a text message. It was from his sister, dinner at 5. Don't be late. The kids are dying to give Emma her presents. Mark looked at his watch. I should get going. My sister's expecting us for Christmas dinner. Of course, Catherine said, immediately reverting to her professional demeanor. Thank you for coming in today. As Mark gently woke Emma and helped her gather her things, Catherine watched them with an expression he couldn't quite read. Merry Christmas, Ms. Wells, Emma said sleepily as they prepared to leave. Merry Christmas, Emma, Catherine replied with a smile. Then, to Mark's surprise, she added, would you both like to have dinner with me tomorrow night? To continue our discussion about the Johnson project? Mark hesitated, caught off guard by the invitation. Please, Daddy? Emma asked. Ms. Wells has hot chocolate and cookies. Catherine laughed, a genuine sound that transformed her face. I promise to have hot chocolate tomorrow too. Then we'd be happy to, Mark found himself saying. As they left the building and headed to his sister's house, Mark couldn't help wondering about the strange turn this Christmas had taken. Last night, he'd been planning to propose to Vanessa. Today, he'd spent part of Christmas with his workaholic boss, who suddenly seemed like a completely different person outside the office. His sister noticed his distraction during dinner. After the children had gone to play with their new toys, she cornered him in the kitchen. Okay, spill it, she demanded. What happened with Vanessa? I thought you were proposing last night. Mark sighed and told her everything, Vanessa's rejection, the impromptu work meeting with Catherine, and the dinner invitation for tomorrow. His sister raised an eyebrow. The Ice Queen invited you and Emma to dinner? That's unexpected. Don't call her that, Mark said, surprising himself with his defensive tone. She's different outside of work. More human. His sister hummed knowingly. And pretty too, if I remember correctly from the company party last year. It's not like that, Mark protested. It's just dinner to discuss work. On the day after Christmas? With your daughter invited? His sister shook her head. Mark, for a smart guy, you can be really dense sometimes. The next evening, Mark found himself standing outside Catherine's address, a penthouse apartment in one of the city's most exclusive buildings. Emma bounced excitedly beside him, clutching a small gift she had insisted on bringing. Do you think Ms. Wells will like my drawing, Daddy? She asked for the third time. I'm sure she'll love it, sweetheart, Mark assured her, pressing the doorbell. Catherine opened the door wearing jeans and a simple blouse, her feet bare, looking so unlike the formidable CEO that Mark almost didn't recognize her. Her apartment was warm and inviting, with floor-to-ceiling windows offering a panoramic view of the city. Welcome, she said, smiling at Emma. I'm so glad you could come. I made this for you, Emma announced, thrusting her carefully wrapped drawing forward. Catherine accepted it with genuine delight, unwrapping it to reveal a colorful picture of three figures, a tall man, a small girl, and a woman, standing under what appeared to be a Christmas tree. That's Daddy, that's me, and that's you, Emma explained, pointing to each figure. Because you were alone on Christmas, and nobody should be alone on Christmas. Mark felt his face flush with embarrassment. Emma, that's perfect, Catherine interrupted, her voice slightly unsteady. This is perfect, Emma. Thank you. I'll hang it right here on my refrigerator. As Catherine placed the drawing on her refrigerator with a magnet, Mark noticed that it was the only personal item in the otherwise pristine kitchen. Dinner was surprisingly relaxed. Catherine had ordered from an upscale restaurant, but she'd also made sure to get chicken nuggets for Emma, who was delighted by the thoughtful gesture. They talked about work briefly, but the conversation soon drifted to more personal topics. After dinner, Emma grew sleepy on the couch while watching a Christmas movie Catherine had queued up. As her eyes drifted closed, Mark and Catherine moved to the kitchen to talk without disturbing her. She's wonderful, Catherine said, glancing at the sleeping child. You've done an amazing job raising her. Thank you, Mark said. She makes it easy, most of the time. Catherine poured them each a glass of wine and led him to the balcony, where they could see Emma through the glass doors while enjoying the night air. Can I ask you something personal? Mark ventured after a moment of comfortable silence. Catherine nodded, her expression open. Why were you working on Christmas? Don't you have family? She took a sip of her wine before answering. My parents died when I was in college. Car accident. I don't have siblings, and my extended family is scattered across the country. It was easier to throw myself into building my company than to deal with the loneliness. I'm sorry, Mark said softly. She shrugged. I've built a successful life. But sometimes, like on Christmas, I'm reminded of what I've sacrificed for that success. She looked at him directly. When I saw your revisions come in at midnight on Christmas Eve, I recognized a kindred spirit. Someone else who was alone when they shouldn't be. I wasn't supposed to be alone, Mark admitted. I had it all planned out. The proposal, our future together. I never saw the rejection coming. Some people can't recognize a good thing when it's right in front of them, Catherine said. For what it's worth, I think someone who appreciates what you have to offer, both as an architect and as a father. Their eyes met, and Mark felt something shift between them. Not just attraction, though that was certainly there, but recognition. Understanding. The moment was broken by Emma calling out sleepily from the couch. Mark went to her immediately, Catherine following. Ready to go home, sweetheart? He asked, brushing her hair from her face. Emma nodded, then looked at Catherine. Thank you for dinner, Ms. Wells. And the hot chocolate. You're very welcome, Emma, Catherine replied. And please, call me Cat. All my friends do. Cat, Emma repeated with a smile. Like a kitty cat. As they prepared to leave, Catherine walked them to the door. Thank you both for coming, she said. It's been the best day after Christmas I can remember. We should do it again sometime, Mark said.